Howdy, Stars fans. Dane here, your host of the Locked On Stars podcast, coming with some pretty big news in terms of what this podcast is going to look like this upcoming season and just into the future in general. Not a typical episode today, as you can tell, but an announcement that I think is worth just sharing here, and not just through a tweet or a post on social media. I'll just go ahead and cut right to the point that my time with the Locked On Stars podcast has come to an end. And I will say initially, and dive into some details in a little bit, that the podcast itself, Locked On Stars, isn't going anywhere. It is just going to be changing hosts. That's happened before. I was not the first host of this podcast. A couple other guys came before me, and now it is my time to move on from the podcast and hand the banner off to somebody different, who we don't necessarily know who that is going to be just yet. But I do want to throw that out there here at the beginning, that the podcast itself is not stopping, and Locked On Stars is still a daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. It's your team every day, and whoever ends up in this role is going to be doing the exact same thing that I've been doing, it just with their own twists and style and flair. And I just want to make that known right off the bat, that the podcast itself isn't going anywhere. It's just me. And it's a decision that is completely my own. A full-time job has emerged in my life over the past month or so that has taken much more time than I thought. And I think will continue to do so. And I just don't think it's going to be a healthy mix once hockey season begins, in terms of work-life balance, of working an 8 to 5 job and then coming home and doing podcast work for the next, several hours after that, whether even if it's not a game day or a game night, several hours dedicated to preparing the podcast, recording, and then editing afterwards. And that could just be a night without a game, but then you throw in a game and maybe even a late start. And it's a lot on one person's plate. And it's a big responsibility to be in a role like this, to be producing a daily podcast, covering a sports team. And as much as I love it, as much as I enjoy it, the time has come, I think, for me to move on, because it just either wouldn't be possible for me to continue to do this, or it would just become so overwhelming, and I would become so engrossed in the world of work, and there wouldn't be time for other things. And I don't want to do a disservice to myself in that way, but also don't want to do a disservice to you, the listener, the viewer. You guys deserve someone who has the time and the capacity, the resources to do this continually, daily. And I just think right now I'm at a point where that just isn't possible. And so as much as I enjoy this, and as much as I've loved it over the past 2 years, 2 seasons covering the Dallas Stars, transition is necessary at this time. But I mean, it's been it feels like it's been so quick, such a short and brief run. But it's been so much fun to do this over the past handful of years. And I mean, I just wouldn't trade that time for anything else. A job an opportunity that came to me at a unique time in life, fresh out of college, with not a ton of podcasting or broadcasting experience. And I think this has helped me grow in a lot of ways in that area, while also allowing me an outlet to discuss a team that I care very much about, and I know many of you do as well. And so it's been just an honor, a pleasure to get to do this for the past 2 seasons, the past 2 years, and then some into the off season. To get to cover this team. And I mean, I've got pretty fortunate with the 2 seasons I got, with the team making it to the postseason and making it all the way to the conference finals this past year. An incredibly fun team. The future still incredibly bright. I'm a little envious of this next host that gets to take over and gets to cover this team in what should be, a championship window here over the next handful of seasons. But I mean, what a past 2 years it's been. It feels like it's flown by in the blink of an eye, and just so incredibly grateful, thankful for the opportunity to David Locke, the guy who started the Locked On Podcast Network. Sean Woodley, the director of all the NHL shows here at Locked On, for taking a chance on someone like me, fresh out of college with not a ton of experience, but a passion and a knowledge about the Dallas Stars, and giving me this platform to get to do what I've done every single day. And I'm incredibly grateful for them and so many other hosts who cover other NHL teams. Those are friendships that I hope to get to maintain over the years as time continues to go on. And whether that be, the NHL side and even some of the hosts that I met that cover other sports. Nick Angstadt, Locked On Mavericks, was always an incredibly huge supporter of me since day one, which was incredible to have because that's one of the biggest shows Locked On has, especially here in the DFW Metroplex area. Incredibly grateful for those people and everyone who's supported me on this journey, friends, family, and especially you listening or watching. I mean, without you guys, I'm just a 20-something talking to this camera, to this computer, and it's meaningless without the audience and the people that tune in and write comments or write in tweets and interact. I mean, that's really what this is all about. Is building a community of like-minded fans who want to see the Dallas Stars succeed. And it was awesome to get other opinions, other insights, other views of what other people were seeing, because sometimes people saw things differently than I did, and vice versa. And I think we built a very healthy and welcoming community that allowed people to express what they were feeling, whether it was good or bad, through the highs and the lows of each season and postseason. But we were always there for one another. It was always nice to see the recurring commenters on YouTube or the recurring people on Twitter, just always coming back and always having something to say. And of course, always so many positive and kind comments about just the podcast in general. And I mean, obviously not the only reason I did it, but certainly made it easier to do this job, knowing that there were people out there interested in consuming this kind of content and engaging with it on a daily basis. It makes this community truly special. And I say it all the time, and it's not just me. It's not empty words. I truly mean it when I say this is the best fan base in the NHL. And I know people across the NHL world don't always recognize it because Dallas isn't your stereotypical hockey market. And this is easily one of the best fan bases in the Metroplex, the best fan base in the NHL. Win or lose, the fans show up, they show out, near sellouts almost every single night, even during the regular season. And then those playoff crowds and the noise and the atmosphere in the AAC, it speaks for itself. It's unbelievable to see the turnout and the support for this team. And it's not just people that, get involved late in the season or in the playoffs. It's people that are there from day one of training camp, following all the storylines, following every single game, whether the Stars are scoring 10 points against the Buffalo Sabres or they're getting, shut out in the final game of the Western Conference Finals, getting eliminated. That's what the Stars fan base is. It's people that are there through the thick and thin. And that was very much reflected here on this podcast. And I know that the timing here isn't necessarily the greatest for what's going on in the world of Stars media. And that's why I'm glad that this podcast gets to continue. But I know, there's the discussion of, there seems to be a lack of Dallas Stars content at times. And I know that this podcast, especially once the season gets going, will be back in full force. But this for myself has been in the works for the past 2 or 3 weeks, and was planning on finishing out the month of July. So here we are on the final day of July. Not necessarily an ideal time, but with that being said, if there is Dallas Stars or hockey content that you love, that you enjoy, be sure to support it and support the people that create it as best you can. I know I was fortunate to get a lot of that support, and I hope that whoever takes over in this role, that you give them a shot, you give them your support, the same support and respect that I feel like I was shown. I hope that they get the exact same, and I'm sure that it will be mutual. That they will continue to come back and feed you great content every single day if the audience is there. And I know that they will be. But, I mean, support Dallas Stars content creators across the board, whether it be podcasting, writing, continue to encourage those people, support them. And I think that, the content will continue to grow and people will continue to make content because, again, this is a passionate fan base, a passionate community around this team. And I still plan on being a part of that community, just in a lesser capacity. I still very much will be following this team. I still plan to go to a few games every season and see what this team can do. But I just cannot say thank you enough for the support over the past 2 seasons. Getting to nearly 2,000 subscribers in almost 2 years is pretty freaking incredible. If you ask me, I would have never believed anyone if someone had said that that's where we'd get by the time I finished doing this. And I know it's going to continue to grow and flourish over the next handful of years and handful of seasons. and still so many other people to thank. A lot of other Stars media members who were kind enough to come on the podcast consistently. Mike Heika, Saad Youssef, Matthew DeFranks back when he was with the Dallas Morning News, Sam Nestler, Bruce Levine, I know came on a handful of times, and probably so many other people that I'm forgetting. Josh Clark, who used to host this podcast, he would be a recurring guest at times. So many people that love this team, that follow this team, that cover this team, and willing to give their time to come on this podcast and work with me. And it's a lot of those episodes were the ones that performed the best and the ones that I got a lot of great feedback on, just because of those other people, the other guests giving their insight. So truly grateful for that opportunity, and just grateful for the opportunity in general. I'm saying it a lot, but I really want to get that pushed across, that I'm thankful for this opportunity, because I know not everyone gets this opportunity, and you have to, cherish it when you get it. And I truly can say that I gave everything that I had over the past 2 seasons into this, and I wish I could continue to do so, but I just don't think it's possible while trying to balance everything else in life. But again, for those of you that have stuck around for the past 2 seasons, for those of you that have stuck around through this recording, I can't say thank you enough. It's been an incredible ride. I'm going to miss it, but I'm excited to continue to watch this team and take a little bit of a step back. And if you're interested in continuing to follow along with whatever I do, feel free to still find me on social media. Dane_Lewis on Twitter or X, whatever we're calling that social media platform these days. You can find me on there. I'll be working in the world of college sports, doing some video production there. So maybe not as many tweets there, but if you are interested in following along, you'll find that there. It'll probably be linked in the description of this podcast. And if not, I hope you will continue to come back to the Locked On Stars podcast. It's been incredible to me, and I'm sure it will continue to be an incredible podcast, and the premier Dallas Stars podcast whenever it does get picked back up, whenever this new host does take over the reins. But thank you guys so much again for everything over the past 2 seasons, and for today. Your support means the world to me, and I can't wait to see what happens with this show and what happens with the Dallas Stars. So for the final time, I'm your host, Dane Lewis, and I hope you guys have a fantastic Monday and a fantastic rest of your summer. Thank you so much.